Hello KSL musicians, small scene change. I'm at my house this time, and if you hear any meowing in the background, it's probably going to be my cat protesting what I'm doing over here. So just in case you hear that, that's what's going on. Hopefully she'll let us at least get a little bit of work done. But okay, let's talk about Sibelius. So there's 3 excerpts for Sibelius. There's one from the first movement, one from the third movement, and one from the fourth movement. Now, the main thing with all of these is if you don't know Sibelius's music very well, and if you don't, you should definitely listen. This symphony in particular is amazing. Symphony number 2, the one that we'll be playing. And so if you are in a Sibelius mood after that, symphony number 5 is probably my favorite. It's much easier than this one. So I kind of wish we had that one, but this one's also very, very good. So that's where we're gonna have a good symphony regardless. The first thing I want to talk about, we're going to talk about some first violin finger stuff in just a little bit because there's a couple of things in here. But the main thing I want to talk about is the feel for this one because the timing is everywhere. Sibelius is late romantic, so he's messing around with the time worse than Brahms we used to do a little bit before. So let's talk about that first. The first excerpt should look like this. I printed off of IMSLP, but you'll start with that weird chord, and you got these weird 4 figures and 2 figures and all sorts of stuff in there. The main time signature for this first movement in particular is either going to be, I think it's in 6/4, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe even 3/2, something like that. I'd have to look at the first movement. Regardless, we want to, I think, feel this one in 2 big beats, almost like it's a 6/8, but of course, instead of 8th notes, we've got quarter notes for this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But those, the counts I'm doing right there, those are quarter notes and not 8th notes. Sorry, I'm getting my words messed up. Then we have the weird 2 figures, and then we also have some 4 figures in there. So let's talk about that first. If we're at the very beginning here, this is measure 196, starting with that chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, do, bull. 1, 2, 3, 4, ba. So in other words, that's the kind of feel that he's going for there. We suddenly kind of broaden out on the 2 figure, and then we go a little bit faster on the 4 figure. I'll play that just so we get it in our ears. Manage that chord. We'll talk about the chord later. 1, 2, 3. So on and so forth. You get the idea. So goes on like that for a while. So nothing too crazy challenging, although make sure you count the rests. We go on like that, da, 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 da. Then we get to the poco largamente. And the main thing about this one is poco largamente, of course, means a little broader. So we can kind of make this a little bit more dramatic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, da, 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 dum, ba. Make sure that that's on the second beat of that measure right there, that half note tied to the dotted half note there. We want to make sure that that's on the off beat. I'll play that once just to get it in our ears also. Like I said, if I can manage these notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. It's a big jump down, so be prepared for that. Then we want to count that, of course, too. Ya da 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 da. We've got another 4 figure in there. Then we get to the 8th notes. Da 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 da. At M, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we just want to be aware of that. We do get a very pretty melody, by the way, finally, after all this dramatic stuff. Right at measure 232. Ya da 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 da. Da da ya da 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 da. I'll let you figure it out. Okay, let's talk about the second one, though, the rhythm. And then, like I said, we'll go back and we'll talk about the left-hand stuff. Second one's luckily a lot more straightforward. This one basically is in 6/8. Dotted half note equals 90, so it's fairly fast. If you listen to a recording, you'll know that, but I'll make sure we'll play it at least once on my metronome, just so you get the idea. That's the dotted half note, which means that's 1 measure per beat, right? Of course, you want to make sure you start it slow and then speed it up. We'll talk a little bit about that left hand coming up here, but you get the idea for that. The other thing I want to point out is at 253, we have those 4 figures again. So if this is the beat, triplet, 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 da 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 da. Right. So we want to make sure that we kind of keep up with that. Those are a lot faster than they are on the first page. Sorry, first movement. Okay, that's the third third movement. Apparently going to mess up every word today. That was the third movement excerpt. Let's talk about the fourth movement excerpt. Luckily, this one's a little bit easier, and there's not a whole lot to go over. Main thing is I would listen to this one because this melody is kind of like the whole point of the symphony, at least I think so. It's my own opinion. I'll play a little bit of it just so we get the idea. I would think of this as being in 3/2. 1, 2, 3, ba, ba, ba. So that we kind of have that feel to it. A little lilting. This whole symphony is a little lilting feel. I'm going to start 2 measures before where the excerpt technically starts at 210. So I'm going to start on 208, just so that we kind of get a little bit of the melody in our ears. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. That should all be pretty easy and simple. Then let's see, we have a couple of these little interesting melody spots, a couple little scales, obviously. When you get down to like 242, make sure you count those half notes. Best thing, or the whole notes, actually. Best thing to do is just keep in that 3/2 beat. Da da da, da da, so on and so forth. That scale right before N is very fast. Luckily, it's all in 3rd position, and you get a land in 3rd position right at N. So I would mostly, if you want to, and practice. But then I would just, you're just gonna have to kind of fake it almost, because it's so fast. And then let's see down at the end, the main thing that happens at the end is that we start to get those quarter notes. So just make sure we're still thinking in 3, and we think about those as being like the 8th notes if we were in 3/4, right? Da 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 da. Ba da, down at 254. Ya da 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 da. Okay, you guys, I'm sure can probably figure that out. Let's talk about the left hand, which is a couple of goofy things. Let's go back to the first movement excerpt. We'll talk about a couple of little places in there first, starting with those chords. One thing that's nice about those chords, might be the only thing that's nice about those chords, is that we have a whole step between the fingers, between the strings. So in other words, for the first one, we have a 1, obviously. That part of the chord is pretty easy. I like to use a 4 because we have that 3, we have that C that's right after that. But we're gonna change that when we get to the next one, I'll show you. So it's basically, if you look at my fingers, a whole step between the 1 and the 2, and a whole step between the 2 and the 4. I'm leaving that little step there, I'm leaving the 4 there, so I can put my 3 there eventually for that C. If you need to hear what it sounds like. Nice diminished little arpeggio there. Okay, then we go to the next one. A good way to find it is you can find the E, or you can find a nice harmonic. And then it's just a half step down for the 3. And, a whole step down for the 3, and then a whole step down for the 1. So if you need to also, it's not a bad one to play on the piano, so that you can get those notes in your ears. We've got a B natural. We've got a G sharp. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to use my other hand. We got an F. Another diminished arpeggio, basically. How I find it after I play the first one, I know that that's an E flat, so I know it's a whole step up to the F. Then I just find it by kind of marking out my whole steps, and you're gonna wanna take some time to practice. making sure that they're in tune. Sorry about that screech. Also play it a little bit easier. So on and so forth. You get the idea. There is quite a bit of shifting and modulation going on, especially in this first part here, in this first line in particular. The next part's a little bit easier. So do make sure that you watch the half steps. It should all sound fairly minor and very dramatic, right? And if you see my fingerings that I sent along with this, you'll see the fingerings, so I won't over-explain it. If you have any questions on that, do let me know. Let's see, 208, we're going into the poco largamente. One thing about the left hand, just in general, when we're up this high, is make sure those half steps are very tight. I've been having to kind of move my fingers around just to make sure to accommodate them. Like, for instance, if we get to that poco largamente. Those are like the tiniest half steps in the world. I almost have to move my fingers back and forth. So take your time to kind of work on the intonation there and tell your fingers what to do, and your fingers will remember that when you start going faster. Okay, let's see. The rest of that left hand wise I think is fairly simple, so I'll let you guys kind of work on that. If you have any questions, let me know. The second excerpt, about the only thing really with this one is that everything's a little bit awkward because it's one of these fast scherzo-y type of pieces, of course. At the very beginning, measure 203. Starts on an F. Watch, I have a lot of shifts going down. You might be able to get away with not shifting as much as I do. If you can, let me know because I'd like to see that finger. But the best way to practice it, because I've noticed, I think this is the hardest part for the left hand, personally, the top of that page of the third movement excerpt, just because there's a lot of shifts, and you have to kind of watch out for the half steps and the whole steps as you're shifting down. Just take it slow and fast. A good way to do it is doubles. So you kind of weigh or measure out those shifts a little bit. And then, of course, with doubles, the best part about doubles is you can go faster and faster with it, but you still have two notes that you can listen to really make sure you get it right. So that's a great way to practice it, even when it's up to speed. Da-ga-da, 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 da-ga-da. That's how I've been practicing it. I guess it's a tough spot. Let's see, there's that. A little spot, just watch, make sure that you can hear it, and watch the shifts. Then when we get down to H, the main thing there is we got what I like to call the chromatic creep. This is Tchaikovsky's favorite thing to do, and it's kind of Sibelius's too, where we'll suddenly start introducing half steps and it kind of creeps into a new key. So do me a favor and listen up. I'll show the main note to watch out for is when we get to the D flat and measure 227. That's where it starts to do the weird thing. Okay, I'll show you right at H. 1, 2, 3. I just poke up my 2. So watch the B flat changing to a B natural, watch the D flat, watch the E flat up to an E natural and a D sharp. I'm going to play that again so you can hear it because I'm pretty sure I played it terribly out of tune. I'll play right at 27 one more time. Half step to the C. Sorry, I keep messing that up. Whole step to the E flat. Half step to the E natural. And then luckily that E flat is a D sharp. And I use that opportunity to get over to the E string. And you just gotta remember to move that B flat up. For the next one, sorry, that's my cat you're hearing in the background. She's not happy with what I'm doing. The next one is similar. A flat. Now watch out, this is a B natural technically. And then the hard part to remember, it's a whole step to the D flat from the C flat, which is a B, right? Then you gotta move the C natural back up. E flat. so that you make sure that you get that nice and in tune, right? Let's see, the only other left-hand thing, since the rest of it's fairly easy after that, I would say, the next part's a little bit challenging, but we're going to skip it. If you have questions, let me know. 253, that's a fourth. Fourths are like the worst possible interval ever to play, I think, on any instrument that's not a piano, because piano is already laid out for you. So just be careful. I feel like the tendency for me is I want to pull the B flat too low, and then that gets us closer to a tritone, right, which we definitely don't want in there. So just I would make sure to practice that almost by itself, finding the B flat, finding the E flat, and tuning it just so you can, and then going from the measure prior. Just so you can really hear that interval, because if you get it too low, it starts to sound like a tritone. Let's see. Now that's the second excerpt, the third movement excerpt. Now we'll speak briefly on the fourth movement excerpt, although there's not really a whole lot with that one. It's mostly down at the un poco con moto. I'll play a little bit from M. Everything before that's diatonic, so it's all in the key. There might be an accidental or two every once in a while. But this is where it starts to modulate a little bit more right at M. I've been taking out those grace notes at the beginning there to make sure I'm rhythmically accurate, because they really are just kind of a blah, like that. So I'm going to play that for now just to get it in your ear, and then I might try to add those back in, but you get the idea. I'll play right at M. 1, 2, 3, 4, ready, and... 1, 2. So when it's over, then we get to N. We have that little scale. 1, 2. And everything up until that part ends a little bit challenging, because at least for me, I kind of shift up and down a little bit to make sure I accommodate for all those accidentals. Then when we get to this part, there's even more accidentals. So listen up right at the poco, un poco con moto right at 254. Make sure you get that A natural in there. So on and so forth. I'll play that one more time right at 254, because I'm pretty sure I played something out of tune. Whole step to the E flat. A natural. Half step down, that was my problem. And so on and so forth. All right. That pretty much covers the Sibelius. Next, I'll make a nice little short video on Bruckner. It'll be much shorter than this one. These are, I think, the hardest excerpts. The Copland excerpts are hard because it's just so fast. And this is, well, one of them is fast, but the rest of them aren't too terribly fast. So I do think they're fairly equal in terms of difficulty. So, happy practicing. If you have any questions, let me know.